As Rue contemplates relapsing, we hear All For Us, a song by Labyrinth that makes a recurrent appearance whenever Rue decides to get high. Similarly, as Rue and Jules get closer and more codependent on each other throughout the season, this song begins to play during moments between the two as well. Being with Jules has become a sort of high for Rue, which is why she's driven back to drugs when they break up earlier in the episode. This scene follows Rue through her drug-induced fantasy, with blocking, lighting, and a mix of diegetic with non-diegetic sound that conveys the distinction between reality and her hallucinations and shows Rue the consequences of her addiction. The song, as it plays in this scene, appears to be non-diegetic, but as Rue falls deeper into her impending trip, it becomes a larger and larger part of the scene. Rue is lifted from her bed, like a puppet being maneuvered around by an outside force. The awkwardness of this movement is the first hint that she is no longer moving within reality. The second hint comes when she begins singing along with the music, which has been non-diegetic up until this point. Rue has begun to acknowledge what is happening in her head, even though the rest of her family fails to notice her or the music. Every noise that Rue makes as she stumbles around is amplified, but her mom and sister are muted and almost frozen. Rue's jerky and unstable blocking creates a disconnect between the careful blocking of the other characters and her own dramatized movements. The windows filter in blinding white light, making it impossible to see out of them. The light gives a certain glow to her home, which is heavily symbolic of heaven. This symbolism is solidified by the presence of her father, who died when Rue was about 13. He's the first character to actually interact with her, and she finds a sense of peacefulness in this moment, which is the driving force behind her addiction.
And then over time, that's all I wanted. Those 2 seconds of nothingness.
Rue gets those 2 seconds with her father in this beat, before she falls backwards. Rue's fantasy continues, and the scene takes on a nightmarish feel as the choir violently shakes her. This movement is visually similar to a seizure, which is most likely what is actually happening to her, but her mind warps us into the blocking of the scene because it better fits her narrative. The street is bathed in blue light, lit with spotlights placed around the neighborhood, making it look fake and artificial. Less like an actual street and more of a stage set. The blue lighting in this setting is meant to reflect Rue's emotional state. It represents the peace and tranquility that Rue strives for. While she is desperately trying to achieve that peace, the overwhelming singing and the way the choir refuses to let her escape evokes a more panicked and uncontrollable feeling as she fails to find her way back to her home. This feeling is contradictory to the original symbolism, and yet another way that Rue loses herself in her hallucination. The marching band enters, lending instrumental backing for the choir and Rue as they continue to sing. Even the sound of Rue herself, clumsily stumbling around, can no longer be heard over the instruments. Her hallucination is completely taken over, leaving Rue with no way to distinguish between what's real and what isn't. As Rue climbs the pile of choir people, the lyrics resemble a plea. Dreamers are selfish is Rue's realization that she has completely idealized Jules, to the point that being with her has become another addiction. Rue finally realizes the unreliability of her own narration as she begs someone to save her, reminder of who she was, even as she continues to spiral. The line, "Until then," suggests that while this relapse didn't kill her, like some theories postulate, this certainly is not a one-time occurrence, and she will continue to use drugs as a form of escape until she can find serious help or she dies.
Till then.
This scene paints the picture of a scared young woman, looking for solace in a dangerous place, one that continues to control her relationships and, more broadly, her life. Rue's idea of heaven is her family, but as her delusion takes a dark turn, she is shown that her addiction will not only continue to damage the relationship, it will eventually kill her if she doesn't seek help, which she does later on in her self-titled special episode. Ultimately, Rue's hallucination is about her loss of power and the consequences of the choices she makes, and while this is presented through highly stylized blocking, lighting, and sound, Rue carries the lesson with her as she journeys through her nightmare and back into reality as she finally decides to take back control.